Hello, welcome to a very special McLaren fans podcast. This one, we're going to be talking about IndyCar and more importantly, the Indy 500, which occurred this weekend, just gone. Same race day as Monaco. So everybody who's in for motor racing had a great day, watched a bit of Monaco F1 and then Indianapolis 500. I'm joined by two big Arrow McLaren SP fans. Say hello, Kenny.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, and hello, Gino.
Hi there. Hi.
Yeah, you guys have both been on various podcasts with me before, so you know the kind of drill. So I guess we picked a pretty good day to sort of do the podcast because let's get right into it about driver rumors, driver lineup, and then we can get talking about the race later. So who wants to go first? Certainly it seems that Rossi is set to go to McLaren in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
Well, Kenny, you're going to be in Detroit, so have a go. Say whatever you want to.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. That is what I've been reading and hearing, is that Rossi is going to be signing with AMSP for 2023. It looks like a third car entry, and I think they want to unveil that news Friday in Detroit because it's in Chevrolet's backyard. So they're going to be very happy with getting Rossi on the Chevrolet side of IndyCar.
Is Rossi's a Honda driver at the minute? Is that correct?
Yes.
Has he always been a Honda driver, or is he swapped
Since
between?
he's come into IndyCar, yeah, like Honda has helped pay some of that contract for Andretti.
Right. Do you think that's going to be an issue? The different engines. I mean, they obviously behave slightly differently.
Like for him to drive.
Yeah.
The drivability. I think he'll adjust. I don't think it's a huge difference. It's very competitive, right? So.
Yeah.
Then again, I also think he's a big catch, right? Because I think he's one of the main Honda drivers who is being promoted as a Honda driver, and now he's switching to Chevrolet. If it's going to happen, of course, it's not official, but I mean, well, I would be surprised if it doesn't happen. But he's a big catch in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big catch, and one that kind of makes you start to ask the questions of, you know, if it's not a third car. Obviously, Pato's just signed a long-term contract, another 2 years, I think. So, you know, should we be slightly worried about Felix for next year? Or, you know, if it is a third car, then does Felix actually keep a seat? Do they change that drive as well?
The only other... Oh, sorry.
Go for it. Sorry, Kenny. Go ahead.
The only other name that I've heard attached to AMSP is VK.
Yeah, he would be a good sign. He does seem to really have some speed, doesn't he? Even though he's quite young to IndyCar, he's definitely an impressive driver.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I guess many fellow Dutchmen will be proud of seeing a Dutchman at McLaren. They will be quite happy, I guess. Sorry?
Orange car?
Exactly. Orange driver, papaya car. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, well, I'm not sure if Felix's result in the Indy 500, a fourth place, is really good, will have any influence on those discussions, of course. But because would you move a driver who performs that well in the Indy 500 out of the seat?
I guess maybe it's a one-off race. Could it be results elsewhere that have cost him a little bit? You know, if Pato's getting a top three sometimes and things like that, if Felix isn't up there, then who knows? But my personal opinion is that Pato is a cut above what Felix is in the IndyCar. Certainly a rising star, and certainly somebody that we need to keep hold of. Whether that's for a future move into F1 or to just keep backing him in IndyCar. Certainly the guy seems to have quite a lot of talent, and also it's becoming a big name for the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on track and off track, I would say he's a big name. I mean, I know many Mexican fans as well, and just he's got the whole country. Well, he's bringing IndyCar to Mexico as well, and well, yeah, he's really a character, and I think he's the front name of the team at the moment in that sense. Everyone in Mexico knows Pato.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he's almost become like a global name now
Mhm.
because of his ties to F1, right? And the McLaren team. He's kind of become a little more global now, which is really great for marketing, right? So
yeah, and that's what it kind of comes down to a little bit as well, isn't it? About how marketable are the drivers as well.
of course.
You know, I see obviously, Gino, you've got team kit on there.
Of course.
Yeah, so I mean that's all really quite interesting. I guess the other name that we've got to throw into the hat there that's been rumored in the last sort of week or two is Colton Herta. Now, obviously, he's been more linked with moving into the F1 seat, possibly. And I guess, you know, even though this is an IndyCar, it kind of crosses over a little bit. Do you think he's ready? Do you think that he can step up to F1? And is he the right fit to go into McLaren F1? Or is he better fitted out for IndyCar? What do you think, Kenny?
I think we have to wait until after his McLaren F1 test to see like how he gets on with an F1 car. But the only thing that I'll say about him is his talent is absolutely undeniable. I think his talent is enough for Formula One, and it's really hard because he's racing for an Andretti team right now. That's probably the fourth best team in IndyCar, and he's pulling them along almost by himself. Other than a couple results from Grosjean, right, and Rossi, it's been mostly Herta. So he's been I would say a force, and he's just yeah. Other than that crash on Carb Day, he's been pretty strong. So
Yeah. And that crash was, you know, it was pretty horrific to watch. But
yes,
yeah, you know, things like that are going to happen no matter what series you're in. Some, you know, there will always be the odd little kind of mistake or something like that. But yeah, you know, what are your thoughts, Gino?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, in IndyCar, even this year, we've seen races where he just absolutely dominates the field. He just drives off in the distance and says goodbye to the rest and just wins it. So his talent is absolutely undeniable. I think, yeah, for an F1 seat, he would need to practice in an F1 car first, obviously, because if you do well in IndyCar, that doesn't mean you're doing well in F1 or vice versa. It's just two totally different beasts in that sense. And in IndyCar, while I think he's really fast, at times he can also be a tad erratic. For instance, last year in Nashville, I mean, he would have had a solid second place. I think it was second, but I think he got a bit frustrated and hit the wall at some point. So I think there's still some space to grow in that sense for an F1 seat in the future. But the potential is undeniably there. I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah, I see. I see your point there of the difference between F1 and IndyCar. I think if he performs well in this test, then and if Dan's still not doing quite well, I think there's going to be lots of questions asked. But would you put somebody without much F1 experience in and expect him to do, a great deal more than what Dan's doing at the minute? I think not at this moment in time. Maybe a few years' time, but who knows?
I agree with that assessment. Yeah.
Yeah.
there was
Shall we-
one thing that I read that Lando said though, because Lando was teammates with Herta in F4, I believe.
Okay.
And yeah, and Lando said that Herta was one of the fastest teammates slash drivers that he's ever raced with. So the talent's there. It's just getting it together, you know.
Yeah, in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we move on to the Indy 500 weekend?
Let's do it.
Talk about that. So I'm just going to sort of put it out there that, you know, this time last year I spoke to you guys about sort of IndyCar and stuff like that, and I was pretty new to the sport. Obviously McLaren are getting involved, and obviously knew about the Indy 500 and everything like that. And we've started to get a lot more coverage in the UK now, showing most of the races, and a lot more sort of news articles about it and things like that. So it's certainly picked up, been a lot easier to follow this year. I've got to say, I've really enjoyed it. You know, even to the point where the Indy 500 race was far more exciting than Monaco. Two of the big prestige races, and you know, I'm sat there watching Monaco, and it was great. I liked this. It was great for Checo to win, and you know, kind of sort of, you know, at Monaco, but it was boring. Let's be honest.
They should have gone out on time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not even get into that. That was done and dusted on Monday's podcast. Whereas,
and I mean, I also really enjoyed the train at the end, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, yeah. That's for your Alonso podcast. That is. But yeah, I kind of, you know, literally down to the last lap of that race, we didn't know who was going to win it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, is Pado going to do it? Is he going to do it? Oh, right.
Yeah.
And you know what? I loved it, and I loved the way that there was a bit of jeopardy and everything else like that. So, and also this time I found myself watching a bit of practice and a bit of quali and things like that, and that was quite interesting to watch as well. Obviously, one of the things that sort of I didn't quite realize was they'd take a 4-lap average speed. Is that correct? Very different kind of qualifying to what you get with F1. So yeah, what did you guys think of the sort of lead up to the race itself, and what kind of went on? I know that we kind of just already touched on Herta's crash. It was massive. It was massive, and kind of like, wow. So yeah, and for our guys, I thought we did pretty well in the quali, and maybe one of you can kind of explain a little bit about what the issues were with Montoya as we go along. So yeah, take it away, guys.
Yeah, maybe before digging into that issue, I think we also got really lucky with the draw the night before. So basically, you just draw a coin, see what number is there, and that's the order in which you can go out. And usually, the earlier you can go on track, the better it is for your chances to end up high in quali. And I think we had 2 for Pato, and also Felix and Montoya and Juan Pablo had really good numbers, so we could go out early on track. And I think last year that was quite different. So we had really good chances this year to do well in quali, and it really showed as well. I mean, the cars obviously they were awesome this year, but we also got that type of luck we needed to do really well in quali as well. So maybe the issue of Juan Pablo. I'm not sure if you actually followed it really well, Kenny, because I was away and just saw it quickly. Not sure if you know.
Oh yeah, I seen it. Yeah, so with Juan Pablo, when they got the car ready for tech or scrutineering, what you guys call it in F1, they didn't pass tech. So when you don't pass tech, you have to go all the way to the back of the line to try and fix your car and get to pass tech. So when he changed, he was going to qualify, I think he was 9th. He was set to go 9th, and he got pushed back to 30th, which is basically like 2 hours almost. So the temperature of the track and everything changes, conditions change. So that's why it's better to go earlier, because it's a little bit cooler.
Yeah. And then yeah, I think I think we did pretty well. And
Yeah.
Was it?
P7, P8
Yeah.
is good. I mean, I was hoping one of our cars would find their way into the Fast Six. It would have been nice, but for the Indy 500, it's not like critical.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And I think the Fast Six was also just mainly a Ganassi party anyway, right? I think 4 of the 6 cars were Ganassis.
yeah, they dominated the Indy 500. Basically, they had the best cars all
Hmm.
since day one. Since they rolled the cars off of the trucks, they had the best
Mhm.
cars. So
Yeah, and I think Gino, you mentioned earlier in sort of some notes that Scott Dixon got a record pole.
Yeah, that was awesome to see. I mean, the speed and just his dedication and how he just sends it those 4 laps and just holds on. It was just incredible to watch.
Yeah, but unlike sort of Monaco, well, where kind of pole is important, it seems less important at the Indy 500.
Absolutely.
It's starting, but further up the grid's a great idea, but it seems nothing's guaranteed from pole position, especially in the Indy 500. There must be a stat there somewhere of how many pole position sitters have actually won the Indy 500. I bet it's not as many as you think. As for the sort of race itself, what was your thoughts on the race of the sort of start and everything else like that? Kind of for me, it seemed like a pretty decent start by our guys, and we kind of had just kind of sat ourselves in there waiting for the right time, the right moment, rather than kind of going a bit too early. It's sort of for me, sort of it got a bit hot on track after with about 50 laps to go was when all of the drama started happening for me. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts?
I think it was clear from the start that having Palau and Dixon at the front, yeah, Ganassi wanted to manage their fuel numbers and tires so they could reach, because being out in front, you use more fuel, right? And you're punching a big hole of air for everybody else. So they kept on trying to change positions and whatnot. And I knew that our team is always really good at pit stops. So I was certain that like at the first pit, the second pit, and third pit, we'd find ourselves like gaining 1 or 2 places. And our cars looked really great in traffic. We could follow, overtake, close up. It wasn't an issue until we got in front. And then we seemed to get past pretty easily when we were in front.
Yeah.
And our kart didn't even have the amount of downforce the Ganassi cars had. That Honda engine was a little bit better for the Indy 500, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pato took the lead a few times.
Yeah,
in the last sort of throws of the race, didn't he? And unfortunately, couldn't make it stick for more than a lap or 2. But yeah, certainly. I mean, I made a note here. Was our car set up right? Was there something that they should have done for the car and set it up slightly differently? But then maybe you compromise how we run in traffic then, I guess, and how we do in quali. So what about you, Gino?
The technicalities, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to comment on that one.
I can help on that though.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, Pato talked about their car setup after the race, and he was adamant that they had the correct car setup, because if you look at the rest of the Chevy runners, they weren't even close to us. Penske, right? They weren't close to us. We didn't have the power that the Hondas did on top end. So we had to run less downforce. We had a looser car. We had to control our tires a little bit better, our fuel a little bit better. But in the end, it came down to one final lap, right? So, I mean, I think the team did everything that they could. It was just, they were like 0.5% off this time.
Yeah, Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
in those final laps, where did Ericsson even come from? I didn't even see him coming. He just
It
appeared
was a
and ran
rocket.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like 20 laps from the end, you would not have put your money on Ericsson winning that.
Oh no, I
No.
wouldn't have.
But then, yeah, well, let's get to the sort of the last sort of throws of the race itself. Obviously, we then had a big incident that brought out a red flag. I can't quite remember who it was that came off. Was it Johnson? Jimmy Johnson?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that was sort of brought out a sort of 5-lap shootout before the end. Kind of, I sat there thinking, maybe they should have done this in F1 last year and watched. This is how you actually handle an incident at the end of a big important race. So I was sat there going, right, get the popcorn out. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
5-lap shootout. It was actually 4 because obviously there was the formation safety car sort of lap, and I thought, right, you got to go for it. You've got to go for it. You've got nothing to lose. After that, and I've got to admit, I thought Pato was going to do it. I thought this is his chance. Just sit behind and just go for it. But yeah, it wasn't to be. But gosh, a P2, a P4, and a P11 for the drivers in the Indy 500. Oh yeah, you would take that any day, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Those are great results, awesome results. And I think, well, he did try to go for it into turn 1 on the penultimate lap, I think, and or even the final one. And the lunge, it just had me, wow, it had me really excited. Like, is it going to happen or not? And he backed out of it. And I think in the end, that also makes him a smart driver, because if he could have easily gone right into the wall there, and then his championship run would have been different now as well. He's in the running now for the championship still. If he would have maybe tried it, he maybe would be far back at the moment.
Yeah, it was very sensible racing, wasn't it? It's, if you're getting alongside, I think you can kind of stay in there and keep your foot down. But yeah, he's kind of just sniffing for that opportunity, really. And like you say, the sort of P2 in the championship for the team as well is, pretty good going.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Kenny? What did you think of the last sort of throws of it?
I think it shows how much of a fine line it is at the Indy 500. Like, it's 200 laps, right? 500 miles. It's a really long race, and you take a look at how, like, Palau at the start of the race, I think on his first pit stop, that caution came out right before he crossed that line, and it screwed up his race because he had to do an emergency stop after that. And then Dixon does his final pit stop, and he speeds, right?
Yeah.
And Dixon isn't known for making errors, and he made his own error. So for us to finish P2 and P4, the top Chevy runners, not that far off of a team like Ganassi, who had a 48-year-old Kanan finish third.
Yeah,
I think it's a heartbreaking, massive accomplishment.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think I get you right. So
the execution was really flawless, I think, on all fronts, because, well, also Juan Pablo started 30th, I think, and he finished 11th.
Yeah.
So that's also a massive jump.
Yeah. Right. So that's all I've got on my notes there. So anything else you guys want to add?
Well, I think maybe Kenny, right? You're visiting Detroit, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. Well, I do want to say a massive congratulations to Marcus Ericsson, because that's a mega accomplishment for someone who comes from Sweden to come over and win the Indy 500, raced in Formula One on the same day. His ex Alfa Romeo teammate has heartbreak. So the connections are kind of weird, and I think for Marcus Ericsson, he absolutely made the right decision coming over here, right, and racing in IndyCar, and I'd
Oh,
like
yeah.
to say a massive congratulations, because that's he's in history now.
Yeah, yeah. He's
That's
an IndyCar winner.
yeah, well, an Indy
IndyCar
500 winner.
500
Yeah,
winner.
that's incredible. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
Great.
joining in on that sentiment, absolutely.
Yeah. Likewise. Right. I've got one last question for each of you before we wrap up the podcast. If you were on that podium, what's your milk of choice, Gino?
I'm gonna join Juan Pablo Montoya and say chocolate, no doubt, chocolate.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Kenny, what about you?
oh, no, I'm gonna stay traditional. I'm gonna say whole milk.
Whole milk, traditional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd go with you. If I've done well enough to win the Indy 500,
Yeah.
especially at my age, I'm going all out with the traditions for all of that.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No, nobody picks orange juice.
What?
Nobody picks orange juice.
No, surely
No,
not.
there's no option. I don't
Surely.
think.
Maybe if Alonso comes back, he can pick orange juice one year.
Hopefully, fingers
Hopefully.
crossed.
Yeah. Right, guys. Thanks very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks for the invite.
No problem. Yeah, and maybe we'll do another one of these towards the end of the IndyCar season and have a bit of a wrap up. How about that?
That's great.
Stuff.
Sounds
Right.
good to me.
Thanks very much.